All right, we are live. Today I am joined by my good friend Futus, aka Tim.
Hello. Hello,
Um,
hello.
this is crazy because we're actually playing this on Roll 20, but this is the most nerd thing I think I've ever done. I'm gonna explain how nerd this is. I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons on my Xbox One while live streaming it on Facebook while being in a call on Discord. Futus is hearing me through Discord. I'm hearing him through Roll20. You're all hearing me through the microphone, and you're hearing him on Roll20. Like, this is like the next level of being a geek. Like, I don't. Like, this is. I've stepped outside the boundaries of nerd and went into full geek mode on this. Um, this is session 0. So, today you're going to hear us test this out to see how well we can get this to work, and we're also going to talk about the theme of this D&D campaign going in and some ideas. So this is not so much the actual game, but the setup for what is to come in the actual sessions. This is both an experiment and also a proper session 0. And what better way to do this experiment than to do it on session 0? So there are. I would like to keep this as classical D&D as I can. Um, but you and I were doing a session where it was improv. The entire thing was improv. What are your feelings of doing another improv game, but this time not allow it to get so chaotic like I allowed you to? Like, I literally just was like, here's the Infinity Gauntlet, go have fun. Like,
I said, can I have 10 with Ring of Three Wishes? And you're like, yes.
yeah, I literally did give you 10 Ring of Wishes, and I'm like, have fun with this. This should be fun. This should be fine. I'm thinking we do the improv again, but I kind of want there to be more structure this time, an actual storyline perhaps, with like a main villain in mind, with a quest in mind, but with all of the craziness of an improv campaign like we were doing. So here's what I suggest. I feel like I should, for this week, start working on a campaign where there is kind of like a villain that's done something, and there's like this question of how he did it or who did it, and your job is to figure out who it was and how to stop them. But at the same time, everything's improv. The only thing I feel like should be planned is the actions of the villain and who the villain is, but outside of that, everything is improv. What do you think of that idea?
I love it.
Can you help with the improv? Yeah. I also think that I kind of also want to suggest an idea of what if we allow the audience to make suggestions.
That sounds fun.
So, like, as we're doing it, the audience has, like, the idea of, oh my god, how funny would it be if one of the peasants just picked up a rock and threw it at the Lord? And then, like, I go, yeah, do it. The peasant picks up a rock and throws it at the nobleman and, like, hits him square in the face. Like, do you think the audience should have participation in some of the actions the NPCs do?
Yeah. I would
Okay.
enjoy that.
Okay. And what I could try doing as well is like make polls. So I could just be like, hey, there's this one idea I have. Should this person do this or should he do this instead? And have everyone vote on it. And then whatever wins, that is what happens in the game. I can also do that.
Yeah. I like
Okay.
a poll.
Make a poll.
We can do the Palpatine meme. I love democracy.
I love democracy. Okay, so we have a premise of villain and his actions are planned, but everything outside of that is improv. And I want it to kind of be kind of along the era of like Lord of the Rings kind of era. So definitely not Lord of the Rings. That's not what I'm mentioning. I'm saying that the medieval era is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So there would be kind of like plays. So like if you're a bard, you'll get to go to the theater and play like Shakespeare and whatnot. Or if you're a peasant, then you're like seen as a farmer. So there's like lords. So not so much kings and queens, but I want there to be more of like lords and ladies and dukes as like the people who are in charge of everything per city. And there's like the people that are kind of like, they call them the peasants, but really they're just, farmers and blacksmiths and the people that work the land. And there is these taxes that takes place, and the lords, the ladies, the dukes don't have full control. I mean, I guess the duke would have control over that. Like, he's kind of like the mayor, the duke. And he is kind of like in charge of the taxes. So I think that's how we should have our political power. So instead of there being like the one king that rules them all, it's just there's dukes, and the dukes are in charge of each city. And there's lords and ladies, and those are kind of like the 1% of those cities. And there's like the lower class. So there's no middle class. There's the lower class, then there's the higher class, and there's the duke. And I think, what do you think of that?
That sounds awesome.
And then we could probably make the duke.
The Duke.
Well, I think every city will
could
have its
nickname
own
him
duke. And
Okay.
I feel like we should do the. There was this one part in medieval times where the duke doubled as the judge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let me see if I could give you a character sheet on Xbox. I haven't tried making character sheets yet with Xbox before, so this is gonna be fun for me as it is for you. Character.
Are
Oh,
you
look
using
at
an
that!
Xbox controller?
I'm using
Or
an
are you
Xbox
using a keyboard
controller.
and mouse?
I'm using an Xbox controller to do this. This is crazy.
Have you ever tried a keyboard and mouse?
Not on an Xbox now. But this is still, like, in my opinion, crazy that I'm able to do this on an Xbox.
Crazy. I used to be
I used to
crazy.
be crazy.
They locked me in a
They
room.
locked me in a room.
A rubber room.
A rubber room with
Rubber
rats.
room with rats.
Rats
Rats
make me crazy.
crazy.
Crazy. I used to be crazy. Anyways, walk me through your process, Tim. What character are you building right now?
I have no idea. I kind of want to go for a character I've never played, which would probably
Okay,
be
well,
a druid.
This is session 0, so this is the perfect time to be asking me questions. Now, remember, this is a time during lords, right? This is your lordship, your ladyship, the duke, and there's peasants, which means as long as you don't steal from the peasants' mindset is they don't like the higher up rich people. So if you wanted to play as a thief, nobody's going to turn you in because nobody likes the lords.
Ooh, I like that.
So you could theoretically create a Robin Hood-like character where you're stealing from the lords and giving to the poor, and no one's going to turn you in. Nobody.
What class or race are people? Like, is it all mixed races and everything?
So the higher-ups would be kind of like elves, right? Like, because elves have always
Okay.
been seen as like the elegant, the well-dressed, the well-groomed. They don't need to sleep, so they're always working hard to make that money. And they live a really really long time, so they have a longer lifespan to acquire that wealth, and then they just, once they're finally ready to pass that 900 to 1,000, they finally pass their wealth to their next of kin, and that person just keeps building up. But humans and orcs and all those other people, they don't have that kind of lifespan that elves have. So that's why the elves are kind of the noblemen, because they have a longer lifespan. It's very, very rare to find a peasant elf. Very rare. They exist, but you're not going to run into them that often. The people that work in the mines are the dwarves, because they are well equipped to do that kind of labor. So they will be in the mines. They're gathering the ore, the iron, the copper, the coal, and they are the ones that sell it to the people above ground. And because they don't really care for people outside the mines, they don't really leave. So they've built their entire civilization in the mines because that's where they work. And they don't want to leave because that all their riches are down there, so they never do. So the dwarves are always underground, always down there. The humans are kind of like in between everyone. Nobody knows how to feel about them. Nobody knows how they want to feel about them. They live the shortest of lifespans compared to the other races. And so to everyone, they kind of see them as kind of there. Like, ugh, I guess you're here. Fine, we'll accept you, I guess. But to the humans, they're kind of like out of place, out of step. They a lot of humans either become thieves or soldiers. They're very the medium class or race between everyone else. Then you have the people that are kind of the ones that live in the woods, like the gnomes. The gnomes live in the woods in their little huts, and they acquire all of their food from farming. Same thing with like, think of gnomes and think of halflings and think of like kind of like hobbits. Gnomes and halflings, they're kind of like the hobbits of this world. Gnomes kind of live more like in the trees, and they kind of like live in tree houses. Not like there's a house that's built on top of a tree. No, no, no. They find a big tree and they build a house inside the tree. And they're kind of like the craftsmen of the woods, but everything they make is from the woods. And then you have the halflings, which are pretty much like hobbits. They live in like little huts built into the ground. They're not very adventurous. They kind of have an easy life about them, and if they see someone who's about to go out to do an adventure, they're kind of like ostracized. They're kind of like, ugh, he's going out to adventure? What would his parents think? Like, that's what the halflings are kind of like. They're kind of like the hobbits of this world. And the, what are they called? The gnomes are kind of like the cookie gnomes. You know what I'm talking about? The ones that make the household cookies. Like, oh, how about some fresh baked cookies? You know those ones?
Oh, the house elf.
Yeah. They're kind of like that, where they live inside of a tree. That the house is a part of the tree. You have tieflings, and they're kind of like a distant race. They're kind of like a race from sometimes across the oceans. You know, they're not very normal. No, the first sighting of tieflings did scare people, but now tieflings have been kind of like accepted into culture. But the tieflings are kind of like, people still have their doubts about tieflings because of their appearance. So they're always seen as sinister, but in an accepting way, where people are kind of like, oh my goodness, it's a tiefling. Are we safe? Is it okay? And then once they see everyone else is accepting them, then they're kind of like, okay, well, I guess we'll accept you, but please don't, raise the dead. Like, then you have Kenkus, and you have like some of the more exotic creatures, like the what hemphalumps? Is that what they're called? The elephant people?
No, let's see. Elephant people. What is it? Um.
I'm thinking of Big Bird's friend, aren't I? No, that's
Yeah,
Snuffleupagus.
yeah.
What's
Uh. Oh, I know it. I just looked at it the other day.
But you know what I'm talking about, the elephant people. They are kind of
Yeah,
like
let's ask
the
the Google.
traveling. They're kind of like the traveling merchants of this world. They are, think of them like the Khajiit caravan, but they're the elephant people caravan. I cannot remember the name of them right now, but they are their own type of caravan where they are kind of like the transportation
Oxynon.
of this world, where they're kind of like, oh yeah, we are from we travel city to city and we gather the best stuff to take to the next city to sell. And it's always a big event when they show up because everyone's like, oh my goodness, they're here. They're going to set up the tents and there's going to be jugglers and there's going to be people who are going to make, there's going to be a show and fire jugglers and like they're going to show magic tricks and then there's going to be this big tent where this one guy's going to come out and they're all going to sell really cool stuff from far off land that we've never seen before. Think of it like Fable 2, or no, Fable 3, where that guy came in and he's like selling all those antiques to the crowd before he sells the music box to the kids.
And the elephants are Loxodon.
Loxodon, so the Loxodon caravan. Are the dwarves lower class? Not really. The dwarves are kind of like their own civilization, where at first, when they were going into the mines, they were as like with the rest of the peasants, where they were like, "Oh, you're just a worker like everyone else." But eventually, they've built their own civilization underground to where they have their own function of hierarchy, where they have their own version of a lord and lady, and they have their own version of peasants. So if they're kind of like every city has a mine. So every city has lord ladyships and peasants, and every city has a mine where it's a subculture of lords, ladies, and peasants. So it's like a city within a city. So to everyone, they don't see them as peasants, just as just like a neighboring city with inside the city. So the dwarves have their own style of, so that whenever a lord from the dwarven culture comes up to greet the other lords, all
City
the
and a
lords
city.
greet that dwarf as one of them. Little did the elves know the dwarves are richer than them. That's very true. To a lot of the, it's a good thing you point that out. To a lot of the people outside of the dwarven culture, they know there's a culture of civilization of dwarves, but they're not very accustomed to what the dwarves would be like because nobody really sees them that often because they refuse to head upwards. They only want to stay within their own culture. So yeah, whenever people see dwarves, they don't really know how rich dwarves are. They know they have a lord, but they don't know how rich they are. They just, hey, there's a dwarf and he's dressed really nice. He must be a lord. But technically he's like the richest man in the city. um Luxodons are the traveling merchants. What else? There are the I can't remember the name of the cat people right now. It'll come to me later, but the cat people are kind of like in the woods with the gnomes and the halflings, but they're the cat people, the orcs, and um, Goliaths, and they're kind of like tribal. There are tribal races in this world where they are out in the wilderness. They have like a lot of people see them as raiders or like as savages, but really they're kind of like their own individual tribes with their own traditions, their own way of life. To outside their tribe, it seems like savagery, but inside the tribe, they have their own religion, their own culture, and they're not necessarily evil or even violent. They're only violent when you go into their camp uninvited. So, like the half orcs, the Goliaths, the whatever the cat people are, Tabaxi. That's it, Tabaxi. They are uh, just tribes of beings that are, you know, coexisting with nature. Now there are other people that live like in the mountains, and some of them are monks, and those would be like the Kenku are like the monks. Um, the There's some humans that live up in the monasteries that are monks, and the monks in this world, along with most of the religions, isn't so much of like we're giving up all of our possessions because we're on a holy mission. It's more of uh, trying to be as close to the gods as possible. And what better way to get closer to the gods than in the mountains, because you're high up in the sky. So all the monasteries are like in the mountains, and people who seek God go to the mountains to seek out those religions. And so the city has like temples. So they're not monasteries, they're temples, but they're based on the monasteries. So if you were to go acolyte and you're trying to become religious, then you could stay at those temples for free, but your class would most likely be from those monasteries from the mountains. Real quick, the money situation, I'm going to keep it very simple. Every 10 copper is worth 1 silver. Every 10 silver is worth 1 gold. Every 10 gold is worth 1 platinum, just to keep it easy. Um, Most things in this world
completely ignore Ethereum.
I mean, we can use Ethereum if you want to use all of it.
No.
Okay. You're just messing with me? I get it. um, Most things like food, drink, and bed and board will be within the copper range. Most items will be in the silver range of price. Uh, Gear like armor and weapons would be in the gold range. So there's not going to be a lot of things in the platinum range unless you're trying to buy a ship. If you're trying to go out and you're like, I want to buy a ship, here's 1 platinum. And he's like, whoa, okay, well, yeah, that's exactly how much this ship is worth, is 1 platinum. So you're not going to really come across a lot of things where you're going to like feel like you need a lot of money. Performing quests is very simple. All you have to do is go to your nearest tavern, or go to the community board in the town square, or go to a caller. There's going to be a guy that goes around and he like has a bell, and he calls out all of the quests for everyone to do. And if you go the route of the town square or the caller, he's going to give you like simple tasks like, oh, Farmer Bill has some snakes that are attacking his cattle and he needs the snakes killed. But if you want the good quests, you would have to go into the taverns, and the taverns is where like all the good stuff is, like all the best quests you could find, because there's going to be people who are going to be looking for other adventurers to help them take on those tasks. Do you have any questions so far? And of course, I guess you could always rewatch the stream if you missed anything, but do you have any questions so far based on what I've said?
I guess how much money can I expect to have during this campaign?
How much money can you expect to have in this campaign? So, the most that you could acquire. So, okay, a nobleman has close to about 10,000 gold. So, if you have 10,000 gold, then you're considered very, very wealthy, very, very rich. And most of the lower class citizens would have something more roughly around like maybe 50 copper, 10 silver, you know.
Okay.
So you would be somewhere kind of like in between that.
Half a gold.
Half a gold, yeah. If they're lucky, half a gold. So you would be like, as you're adventuring, at most you'll have like maybe 20, 30 gold, uh 5 silver, something like that.
Okay.
Like, for example, if you're a bard and you're out in the streets and you're doing your performance, trying to earn some money, you'll probably look in your case and see that you probably have like 5 or 6 silver. You know what I'm saying? So like, not a lot of money. So your best chances would be to do quests to earn
Yeah.
more money. I am allowing you to loot anything you come across. Like, if you come across a goblin, you can like loot his body, but like most of the stuff that you'll find on NPCs is what the NPC had. Like, oh, I'm gonna take whatever's on this goblin's body. Well, he had a spear and a dagger. Most of NPCs won't have a lot of valuables on them. They'll have it like in chests and in cupboards and jars, because of course they're not going to like wander around and risk the chance of dropping something or
Yeah.
risk the chance of someone coming up to steal from them. So you can loot NPCs. I am going to allow that. But just know that you're not going to find a lot of valuables on them unless you go back to their camp where all their valuables will be. I'm also not going to control your actions. So if you want to play like there's a villain, but if you want to overthrow that villain and become the new villain, you can if you want. Or if you want to overthrow the villain and build a better civilization, that's also an option.
Writing that down in my notes.
Yeah. There's also there's ways to even like raise your own zombie army and create your own zombie apocalypse even. So you can either be the next villain, or you could be the person who ends the world, or you could be the person who creates a new world from the ashes of the old one.
Ooh.
All possibilities. All possibilities.
The world ender. Tim the world blender.
Tim the world blender. There is also the possibilities of being able to okay, so the main things that you will be encountering, so you have your wood creatures such as wolves, bears, snakes. You also have in the caves you have your goblins, cave spiders, cave bears. You have in the mountains you have griffins. You have very, very, very rare will you ever run against a wyvern or a dragon. They exist, but they're like legendary, like those are the ones that like they keep to themselves, in other words. Cyclops, giants, those are the ones that are more unique as well, but they do exist. And they mostly won't go after civilizations. They'll go after farms or ranchers out in the middle of nowhere. Things that they can go after where they won't get caught so easily by armies or hunters. So if you're going out and you're trying to find a cyclops or you're trying to find a giant, you have to like really go above and beyond to find them. You can hunt them down. There's ways to do it, and the best way to find rare creatures is to talk to hunters that have found their foot tracks or have heard stories of where they are, and through over time you can find those creatures and hunt them down. Very rare will you run into terrifying creatures like skeletons and zombies. The only way that you'll ever run into those is if you purposely are looking for a necromancer to kill, or if you are going into somewhere that people are saying is haunted or cursed. That's the only time you'll ever run into zombies, skeletons, the undead, or ghosts, is if you purposely try to find the paranormal. I'm saying that because clerics and paladins are strong against the paranormal. And the only way you'll ever run into those in this campaign is if you purposely go out to look for them.
Paranormal stuff do you predict will be happening?
Yeah, like, oh, I heard a legend of a haunted mansion on top of a mountain. And most likely you'll find ghosts and zombies and skeletons because you went to somewhere where someone said was paranormal. So
Okay.
just in case you're thinking about making a cleric or a paladin, just know that the paranormal monsters are rare to find. So yeah, the creatures that you run into are not going to be random. They will be placed based on the environment you're in. So if you go into a cave, expect to find creatures that would normally be in caves. If you go into the woods, expect to find creatures that you normally find in the woods. The only time you'll run into a creature that is misplaced if it was placed there purposely for something. And the reason why this is all important is because when you build your character, keep all that in mind of okay, like for example, if you play as a druid, you would have a better chance in communicating with the creatures that you come across because you'll probably go into the woods more often than you would the caves. So having high animal handling is going to be your best friend. If you're planning on playing this game to search out the paranormal, then paladins and clerics are going to be your best friends. If you're planning on going into caves, then dwarves, because of their dark vision and their ability to sense out what is in a cave. So yeah, the creatures you are planning on hunting the most, mixed with your story that you want to tell for your character, is going to what really helps build your character overall. Are you going to be a thief that only goes into caves? Then you might want to think about a ranger dwarf, or if you're going to be a holy knight hunting down the evils of the world, then you're going to be a paladin, elf, or a paladin Goliath who goes into paranormal entities' homes to purge them from the world. You see what I'm saying? Why don't we go ahead and let you roll for
I'm
your
thinking of
stats?
going with like a druid. Awesome.
A druid?
What do you want to have me roll?
I'm going to have you roll 4d6 and then re-roll the lowest one. Alright, then re-roll one of the threes. I'm going to allow you to re-roll that one. Okay, the game just wants you to not have a good number right there. So it's at 12?
Yeah.
Alright, and then re-roll that one. Okay. What, 14?
Yeah.
Go ahead and do it again. And then re-roll the 2. Oh, perfect. 14. Another 14.
Hopefully it gets better from here.
Re-roll the 1. Okay, alright. 13.
13.
It didn't. It didn't. It did not. Go ahead again. Reroll. Alright. Alright. What, 16?
16?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One more. Reroll the lowest. There we have it.
Nice.
That's a if I
That's the
do
good one.
that's the one good roll in 18. So the upside is you do not have anything in the negatives. In fact, I think you have a modifier for
Yeah,
every one of those.
that's good.
Yeah. So here, I'll send this into the chat. I'm really surprised by how well this is working on Xbox One.
That's awesome.
I mean, I was able to give you a character sheet and write down all the numbers that you rolled. That is phenomenal. Okay, so we've discussed the political structure and how all the races function in this world. We've talked about the placing of the creatures. We've talked about where the monasteries and the temples are located. We've talked about currency. I think the final thing to talk about is the magic. So, in my D&D campaigns, I have a home-brewed rule where I allow you to substitute actions to perform spells. I'm not going to
Right.
do that for this game, but I'm going
Okay.
to allow you to ignore components because that's just too much work on both you and me, the components. Unless you want to do components.
No, I hate components.
You hate components. Okay. So I'm going to allow you to not do components. And another homebrew rule that I want to add is I kind of want. Okay, so there is this one video of a DM who talked about this, and I really liked it. But in order for me to add this to the game, I have to first talk to all the players. Since it's just you, all I have to do is talk to you. So there is a mechanic that this DM created, and I think he called it the Omen die. Now, let's say you are
Ooh.
in combat and you rolled a nat 1. I can give you the option to re-roll that, but now you are like cursed with an omen, which means that at any given time, for any given reason, I can make you take that 1 that you rolled previously.
Oh.
But I can give you that chance
Okay.
of being able to. I rolled a nat 1. Damn, I needed it to pass, and I can say I'll let you re-roll it. But now you would have an omen over your head, and then like at any given time, you could be doing something as small of a task, such as you're taking a drink to impress somebody, and then I'm like, oh, the omen takes place, and then instead you just splash it in your face instead of drinking it, making yourself look like a fool. It could be something as small as that, or it could be something really major, like you're about to do something badass, like you're trying to shoot an arrow off the ricochet it off the wall to hit the back of an enemy that you have to hit, and the omen takes place and you miss instead. It could be
I like it.
it's you like it. Okay, so the omen die can be in place. And so and I'll place a token on the map right now. Oh my goodness. Okay, on the Xbox One, the right and left trigger allows you to zoom in and out of the map. I gotta get rid of some of these tokens. They're starting to accumulate. Okay. So I'm going to place a token on the map. I'm going to place it under the V for live, so you'll find it faster. So when you take the omen die and you failed, or you take the omen die and now you have an omen on you. I think what I'll do is I will place I'm thinking this cursor. So whenever you see that icon on your token, do you see it?
Yeah.
That icon will represent that your character now has a bad omen. That way, it will be a consistent reminder that you have an omen on your head. So to be careful, because at any time that nat 1 can pop up. That way you won't forget.
Okay.
Now, one final homebrew rule, because this one's a big one. I think I did hit the wrong button on my controller. Okay, so there's a spell that is supposed to allow you to know how much health an NPC has. But I'm okay with just ignoring that one particular spell, to just adding a health bar on the creature so you always know how much health that creature has in the game.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay. And that's kind of just my way of like helping you out, especially since you're at the moment the only player. But I'm sure once we have more permanent players, I'll most likely get rid of the health bars to make more challenging. Okay. So we've gotten the home brewing out of the way.
Yeah.
We've discussed a lot today. Do you have any questions so far?
Are you going to make me keep up on rations?
Yes. So rations, yeah, rations, and whenever you have to eat, those things will all have to be calculated. Also, if you ever like shoot arrows or bolts,
Okay.
and you'll have to keep track of how many arrows you've shot, how many bolts you've shot, and you'll have to find them after shooting them. If you are to use a bow and arrow or a crossbow and you rolled a nat 1, then that arrow is forever destroyed. It's gone.
What about the bow itself? Is it damaged?
No.
I've played with some DMs. You accidentally shoot your ally, or your bow string breaks and you have to repair it.
I mean, that is a possibility, but that's kind of like way too extreme. Nat ones are better as like you shoot an arrow, but then you missed and it smashes against the wall and it like just breaks it, or you shot an arrow, but instead of hitting your designated target, you instead like hit like a lever that opens the door and lets two more goblins in from the other room. You know what I'm saying? But I don't
Okay, yeah.
I don't subscribe to the idea of nat ones causing you so much trouble that it hinders your character. Like, I don't subscribe to the idea of a nat 1 breaking your weapons, or a nat 1 like how you said how the bow comes unnotched and you have to like, oh no, now I gotta fix my bow. Like, that's dumb. Or Here's a good one. Like you're swinging your sword. I do subscribe to this one. I like the idea of you're swinging your sword and like it gets stuck in one of the dead bodies on the ground. That's kind of funny. That's more humorous than it is like a penalty.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. The most extreme that you'll see me do with a nat 1 is you shoot your arrow and it smashes against the wall and it breaks. That's the only time that you'll ever see me use a nat 1 to break something is your arrows. Outside of that, however, if you're doing stealth, I would always like use nat 1s as a way to like of course alert the guards to that person's location, but make it humorous. Like kind of like they did in Dungeons and Dragons the movie where he's casting that illusion magic and he like gets his foot stuck and the bard's face starts warping in the illusion. He's like, by the gods, what is this? It'd be something like that. But yeah, I'm not going to use nat ones to damage your character. That's kind of too extreme. Too extreme.
Okay,
In my opinion.
I'm on board with that.
Yeah. Also, pick your alignment wisely.
Like a lot of fun.
Pick your alignment wisely because if you are, let's say you're going to become a thief and you are planning on stealing somebody's wealth and for evil intent, I will allow you to roll with advantage because of your alignment. Or if you are evil and you're trying to like convince somebody that you're trying to do something good, because of your evil intent, they're not going to believe you. For example, imagine if like this you're watching a horror movie and the serial killer with the mask on walks in with like bloodlust in his eyes and he's like, don't worry, I'm here to save you. Of course you're not going to believe him, no matter how well he said that. You're not going to believe the serial killer. Like that, no one in their right mind in any horror movie should ever believe the serial killer. But that is how I'm going to treat alignments. Imagine the evil alignments is how everyone sees you as the villain. And when you're trying to do something good, they're not going to believe you because you're the villain. But if you're someone good, trying to pretend to be the villain, no one's going to believe you because, well, you're kind of too Superman. You're kind of too, like, good. Like, ha! I'm here to rob you. Like, yeah, okay, sure thing, buddy. Like, so definitely when making this character, keep your alignment in mind because depending on what your alignment is, could either benefit you with what action you're trying to do or disadvantage you depending on what action you're trying to do. But also keep in mind that if you pick anything within the neutral range, I won't allow that to hinder or disadvantage you. Like, for example, if you're neutral evil, I'm not going to like, oh, because you're neutral evil, you roll disadvantage for trying to save somebody. No. Neutral evil, neutral good, and pure neutral do not have advantage and disadvantage to their rolls. I'm going to keep that as kind of like, you're just kind of in the middle. You're not good or evil. You're just right there. So if you end up picking neutral good or neutral evil, just know that that's not going to help or not help. You know, it's not going to like be good or bad if you pick neutral any alignment.
What about gods?
Okay. There is the sun god, which is what everyone kind of like worships, and they see the sun as a god, and they see the moon as like the evil god, and so they worship the sun, and there's kind of like this opposing, you know, with his brilliant light on you, you're always in the basking of his glory kind of talk. And so, because of that, they are kind of like, we're the correct religion because you can see our God. He's in the sky every morning. He blesses us with his light. They're kind of obnoxious and annoying. And then you have each tribe has their own set belief. You know, they're like, oh, us orc, we believe in the nature of Hudakai. And it's like this huge warrior god, you know. So as you make your character, you could always message me which race you picked, and I can always tell you which gods would be in your facility of your character. Unless you were to go acolyte monk, at which point you would have two choices: to either worship the sun or to worship the moon. So overall, there's two main force gods, the sun and the moon. And those are the ones that are going to play a big role in the
Okay.
storytelling, because since they're always like, yes and no. Yes, those are actual gods. No, they're not actual gods. Like, they are divinity, but it's not because the whole sun is a god. It's that there's a god on the sun that exists, and there's a god on the moon that exists. But the moon itself isn't a god, and the sun itself is not a god. But to the people, they don't know that. To the people, they're like, the sun's the god and the moon's a god. But no. They just live there. They're not actually the gods. So they will eventually play a role, especially if you do choose to be religious with your character. Then they will definitely be more present to help you. There are evil gods that live in the belly of the earth, and those are more of chaotic in nature. Think of like the upside down world. You know what I mean? From Stranger Things.
Okay.
So there is a
Yeah.
Underdark, and the gods live in the Underdark, the evil ones. There is the gods that are the sun and the moon. To them, they call them the sun god and the moon god. And then to the gods that live in the Underdark, they just call them demons. And those are of the evil alignment. For your character to worship one of the evil gods, they have to search them out during the quest. They have an idea of who they're looking for, but they don't know who they'll find. And it's kind of like a chance thing for you to worship an evil god, to find one. And when you do find one, he'll either accept you and will bless you with his gifts or her gifts, or they'll reject you and curse you, and you'll be a blight on the planet. And everyone will know you're cursed, because whenever you walk around, they can just feel that aura of, oh, he's kind of fucked. So those are your choices. You have the sun god and the moon god. You have individual tribes depending on which race you go with. Which race did you are you choosing, or are you still thinking about that?
I'm still thinking about that. Pretty
Okay,
sure I'm gonna
yeah,
go with the
just-
druid though.
You're going to go with druid. Okay, so you're probably going to end up with one of the woodland gods. I would say, just for the sake of argument, to make things progress faster, let's go with the whole Game of Thrones thing, where there's trees with faces on them, and those are considered the old gods, and those are the ones that the people in the woods worship, are like these trees with faces on them.
I like that.
Yeah. So as a druid, you would probably end up worshiping the old gods instead of the new gods, the sun and the moon. And you have the ability to, whenever you see one of the old gods, you can kneel in front of that tree and pray, and through the mouth of the face, you'll receive one good answer for the full 24 hours, for a full long rest. So you can always go to a tree and like, I have a question, I need an answer. What can I do about dot to dot to dot to dot? And you'll receive one answer of that question for 24 hours. But I think we've now gone over everything that can be gone over. Do you have any questions before we end the stream?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, I just want to say thank you to everyone that's joined, everyone that's left comments.
Other people, are you going to have temporary characters or
for people who are going to play
room for full characters?
I think I will create, because you're going to be a druid. I will make 3 NPCs. They won't be able to do a lot as far as damage goes, but it will allow them to interact in this world. I'm going to create a pixie. I'm going to create a raven who knows how to speak fluent common, and I'm going to create a trying to think. Let me think about the third one. But so, anyways, as you can tell, all 3 creatures are very limited to what they can do. So they're not. So that way, we're not inviting people on here and have them like killing NPCs or have them purposely try to have the NPCs get killed, because like a raven won't be able to do much damage, a pixie won't be able to do much damage, and whatever I come up with the third one, so on and so forth. And so these 3 characters are not with you as we start. You will encounter them as we go. That way we can bring people on who can make it, and that way multiple people can be the same NPC. And then if they have a good track record of being able to show up constantly, then we will allow them to make their own character. But I think this will be it for now. Tim, you have a lot of homework to do with your character. I have a lot of homework to do with this campaign.
Yeah.
This is going to be really fun. Thank you everyone that's joined and left comments. And I'm looking forward to actually looking back on this stream to see what could be fixed, what could be added, to hear the audio quality more clearly, to see how well it came out. But I think this has been fun. I can't wait to do more. We'll have to review the footage to see how the audio was. But until then, we will see you guys next time.